recording.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ask Nutritionist Deepa's next episode. I hope you all are doing well and enjoying the summer, the hot weather, taking time to take care of yourself. Because remember, the more we take care of ourselves, the better we are in the position to take care of others, right? Because we cannot be like little microbiomes in our own little house here. We have to make sure that our friends, family, even our neighbor, we can't touch them, but you don't have to touch someone to feel what they are going through. So it's all about being mindful, and I hope you are kind of in tune with that. And I am back with another guest for you, and today's episode is going to be all about help and resiliency and tenacity and plowing through things, because I have Mr. Kevin Jackson here, who is traveling all the way from Chicago, virtually, of course. And Kevin has a very interesting story, and his ups and downs in life has made him who he is, and has made him and has found a career of a social worker. He finally was able to find or to help others through through that career. And I would like to welcome Mr. Kevin Jackson here. And so Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Deepa. I really appreciate being on your show, and I'm very humbled by your invitation.
All right. So, Kevin, we like to hear stories. We like to hear backgrounds. We like to know who the person, the real person behind the face is. So, uh, give us your background. Give us your life story as to who Kevin is and how you found Kevin within you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking me that. I'm the oldest of 6 children, born to a single mother. I never met my father, never knew him, don't know what he looks like or anything like that. And so I was raised in a working class household. Nobody in my family had degrees, or nobody was professionals like teachers, engineers, or police officers or anything like that. And so for me, when I was 9 years old, my mother married my stepfather, who was a preacher. And he was a mean man, very mean, very abusive, verbally, physically abusive. But he was a hardworking man. He was a preacher. And so I was raised in a religious household where, either you were good or bad. You were sinner, wasn't no in between, wasn't no gray areas. And if your life wasn't going right, or something bad was happening in your life, God was punishing you because you were a sinner, or you weren't doing what God wanted you to do. So as I grew up in that life, in that household, I had very low self-esteem, didn't know who I was, and I wasn't obedient, did what my parents said. So when I went off to college, I realized that I was the first person to go to college. So when I went to college, there was no support. Once I was going to college, I was just on my own. And so I realized that what I was taught and what was going on in the real world didn't match. It didn't match up. And so I felt that it was my fault, that I was doing something wrong, because I didn't feel good about myself. I had low self-esteem. I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of guilt. Eventually, I was able to graduate from college with a degree in business and marketing. And then after I graduated from college in Carbondale, Southern Illinois, Carbondale, I worked various jobs, and I ended up working in this group home with boys who were wards of the state.
But I'm going to interrupt you here and ask you a question.
Anytime. Yes.
When you had such challenging childhood, how did you even got to the point of graduating from high school and even get to the college level? And how did you find that strength? Was it your mom pushed you, or you just wanted to get out of the situation? Because when you grow up, or when you when you have, like you said, you had no really role model or anybody around you. How do you find that light? How do you even know that there is something better exists?
Great question. Very good question. There was a couple of things that I knew. One, I knew that that college was going to be the way for me because I
Okay.
saw it on TV, and also I played football in high school, so football saved my life. So my friends on the football team was like, "When we going to college?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to college too," even though I didn't know what college was. I was like, "I'm going to
Okay.
go to college." And at that time, I truly believed in God, and I believed in when my stepfather was preaching, and we read the Bible. And one story that kind of resonated with me was Job. And I felt that, you know, Job went everything, and I felt that if I hold on, that there would be something better on the other side. Sort
Okay.
of like the movie The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
You know, I'm gonna go to Wizard to get a brain. And I felt that if I could just graduate from high school, my life would be different.
Okay.
So I saw it was hope in a sense.
Hope. Perfect. And
Yeah,
to our audience, that's what we need to remember is in your darkest moment,
yeah.
when you are fallen, when you are really at the bottom of the barrel, there is still, one must somehow say that there is hope,
Hmm.
because that hope will keep us alive. The hope will help our brain think. So having hopeful or feeling hopeful is extremely important.
Amazingly important. Hope is everything. Hope is everything. Like you said, Deepa, especially when you're feeling low and you're feeling down, to
Yeah,
continue to have that hope and that belief in yourself.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I go
No,
on.
please,
So
anytime. Just
okay.
because I can kind of
Yeah.
talk a little bit, so anytime,
No, no,
just
no,
jump
that's
right
good.
in.
No, it's important because the kids are struggling right now. I
Yes.
work in public health, and I'm seeing a lot of kids at younger age are struggling, and they are feeling hopeless and frustrated. And that's why I want to make sure that as a parent, and if there are any teenagers listening, uh,
Mhm.
hope is important.
Yeah.
And people like you are role models because you
Yeah.
have done it.
Yeah. It is. And the thing about it, I'm gonna jump around a little bit there,
That's
but
fine.
when I went to graduate school to become a social worker, because like I said, I was raised in a religious household, so it was
Mm.
either this or that, black and white, no gray area. So when I went into social work and I started learning about human behavior,
Mm.
human psychology, human development, and
Mm.
they started teaching me about mental illness.
Mm.
And I remember that we were going over the symptoms of depression. I'm like, oh my God, that's me. I'm all these years I was depressed,
Yes,
but I never knew. I never
correct.
knew about depression or anxiety and those different things in birth order and the climate and culture in your home, how these things do have an effect on your decisions as an adult and what
Abs-
route and things that you go about. So just knowing that was like, it was amazing to me. It was like knowledge that I had never experienced before, seen.
Wow, that
Mm-hmm.
is that is really amazing.
Yeah.
Uh, that how we sometimes tend to go through life, and like I see with my patients who are very very sick, the
Mm-hmm.
sickness is becomes the symptoms become almost normal.
Yep.
Low
Mm-hmm.
energy or feeling
Yeah.
depressed, you can say, or sad or hopeless or in pain or high
Mm-hmm.
blood sugars or headaches.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
all becomes like, oh, this is just a new normal.
Yep, yeah.
And we as human beings very quickly get used to it,
Accept it. Yeah, accept it. Yeah.
accept it. I mean, look how far we feel mentally since March. In March, we thought,
Yeah.
oh my God, the world is ending. And
Yeah.
now we are like, oh, this Zoom business is not as bad as I thought,
Bad. Right.
you
Yeah.
know. So, but anyway, so then what happened? So,
So then, after I kind of fell into social work, I really wanted to work in the school systems because,
mm,
like you said, with kids and parents, I'm seeing the kids in the same situation that I was in, and parents trying to deal with that. And what I realized is that a lot of it is just lack of information, just
mm,
lack of knowledge.
mm,
And when kids come into my office, I talk to them about depression, and I talk to
mm,
them the things that can cause depression. There's some that's medical, that's chemical and chemistry. I do it, but a lot of it has to do with trauma. And you hit on it very well, that when you raised in trauma, that's all you know. So you don't see it as trauma. So you just see it as something normal, but it does have an effect on you emotionally and your belief in yourself and the hope. So when parents and students come and talk to me, I talk to them about depression. I talk to them about the signs and symptoms of depression. Then I talk to them about certain skills and strategies they can use to kind of pull themselves out. And also in this situation, I realize it depends on how you look at things. If you look at things from like when I was coming up, like I was saying earlier, I was being punished. That the universe was punishing me. I'm cursed. I would never get out this situation. But as I evolved as a person, I realized that I wasn't being punished. I was being prepared.
Interesting.
So if you you can look at 2020 as all these things as, horrible, negative, and toxic, or you can look at it in a sense as you being prepared and use it as a way to grow and develop yourself in a sense. And one Zoom I was on is that like with couples, they've never been at home for a long period of time with themselves. So they end up realizing that they have a lot of issues and a lot of fights, and they've been fighting and arguing for a long time. But by them being at home, even with the children and their parents, by them being home, they forced to deal with some issues that they had with each other.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
We were so far removed from what real life should be.
Right.
That this has been a really good reset.
Yeah. Oh yes, absolutely.
I mean,
I agree.
No,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that it is bad, and a lot of people are hurting right now. But like you said, if we use this as a stepping stone for something.
Yeah, it truly is. And one of the skills that I use with my kids and even with parents is something simple like walking. One of the big questions I get from parents all the time is, my teenager won't talk to me. How do I get my kids to talk to me? And I tell parents all the time, I said, if you set a teenager down and like, hey, what's wrong with you? Nothing. I'm okay. Nothing. You're not going to get an answer. But teenagers' brains are developing and kind of different, and they're very active. So I tell parents all the time, look, just you and your teenager go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just go for and talk about anything. Don't talk about anything. Just talk about movies or sports or anything like that. Walk 10 minutes away from your house, turn around and walk back. That's a 20-minute walk. And I said, once you build a routine, teenagers tend to let their guards down and they tend to tell you how they feel. But it has to be some type of activity and building momentum. And it's also in the skill, because walking outside of the physical goodness of walking, but it also helps relieve stress. It helps relax your mind. It helps relax your joint. And it's exercise and you burning calories, but you also building the skill of communicating and talking, which definitely helps as you're walking as well. So those one of the kind of the skills I kind of use with parent and teenagers as well.
Perfect. No, such a simple thing, but we never think of walking as a therapy session,
Yes.
which
Yes.
really it is.
Yes, it is.
So you were in college and then you finished your graduate school. Now, during this time, I'm assuming life wasn't exactly bed of roses for you.
Horrible. Like, you like when you go see the Wizard of Oz and you think your life gonna change. I was like, I graduated from college. I got a degree in business and marketing and management. I'm like, I'm ready to make money, get my own place, go out in the world and do different things. It didn't happen that way. I ended up moving back with my mom, and we were poor, of course. And I couldn't find a job. I was sending out resumes left and right, and nobody would hire me. I couldn't find a job. And then I ended up working like temp jobs. I ended up working temp jobs here and there, seasonal jobs, and just to make some money. I just wanted to make some money. And so, and then I ended up working at this agency called CETA. And what they did was they gave you assistance on your light, your gas, your heat, and your rent during the wintertime. So I just verify application. And what's so funny is that I love the job because all I did was put on my headphones and I did application. And the guy that was in charge was an Indian guy from India. And I didn't even think he knew me. His name was Sam Chaco. I didn't think he knew me. And one day he called me in his office. And I was sitting there talking with him, but I was like, man, I want to get back to work so I can get my numbers up. You know, you talking, and you're not talking about anything. I want to hear it. And then finally he stopped and he looked at me and he said, Kevin, you don't belong here. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you don't belong here. He was like, you too smart and you too good for this place. This is beneath you. He said, the other people here belong here. He said, but you don't. He said, you need to leave and you need to go out into that world and find yourself. And that was our first ever interaction with each other outside of saying hi. And it kind of puzzled me. It kind of confused me because I honestly, I did not know what he was talking about at all.
And probably nobody ever said that to you.
Never, ever said that to me. And so it blew me off because, you know, because he was always walking back and forth. And I was thinking, how could you see that in me when I'm just sitting at a desk doing applications, you know? Yeah. So it kind of threw me off. So then I got laid off from that job. And then I ended up working at a group home.
Okay.
With boys. And I hated it because these boys were just off the chain. You know, we had to restrain them and all this sort of stuff. And so when I started reading their files, and I read the files of them being sexually abused, being shot at, verbally abused, and that's why they was taken from their moms and their families didn't want them back. And then it became the best job I ever had in my life, Deepa. I love that job. Then a friend said to me, you're not going to make any money in social work without a master's degree. She said, you got to go back to school. And said, that's what took me back to school to get my master's degree. And then while I was in graduate school, I ended up working at a recovery place for people who was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And that further helped me to kind of understand how people turn to alcohol and drugs to deal with some trauma that happened in their life because they don't have any skills or help or self-care skills on how to deal with a lot of issues in their life. So they turn to drugs and alcohol. So that gave me another understanding of people that life isn't just black and white. There's a lot of gray areas. And if you don't have some information or if you don't have somebody that's positive by your side, you can't get lost. You really can't get lost and lose hope like you were talking about before and then go into a depression.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, it's probably for you, it probably feels, oh, this was so long ago. But, right? But
yeah,
where we are right now in this 2020 June and what has happened last few weeks, few months about everything, about conversation around race and this COVID and the facts that came to surface about, you know, which demographic was most affected by COVID, infection rate, access to care, everything, right? A lot of things came to surface. There are still hundreds of youths, boys and girls who are going through what you are going through even right now as we speak. So if there is a person who is really suffering right now, you know, what advice would, and if he knocks on your door, or for some reason if you end up seeing him on the street or whatever, you know how that your employer, the Indian person you mentioned, was your God or angel or whatever you can say. If you were to have an opportunity to talk to somebody like that, and I'm sure being a social worker you get plenty of sessions, what is one thing that you will tell someone to just kind of help them uh, to get
Great
over the
question.
line?
Great. I'm gonna try to keep it to one thing if I can.
Yeah.
But I guess for me, I guess one of the most important thing is that I would tell people that they have to cut negative people out their lives.
I
They
see.
have to cut and the toxic people in their life. And I know it's hard for people, but I don't care if it's mother, father, children, aunts, uncles, brothers, co-workers. You have to get negative people out of your life because they're poisoning you. And they poison your thought process and make you feel like you're not worthy. And
Hmm.
that it would be imperative that you surround yourself with positive people. If anything, that would be the most important thing because I have positive people in my life and friends, and
Okay.
they're the ones who support me and carry me, and we do it for each other because sometimes, you have different moments in your life where one may be high, one may be low.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying a girlfriend or a boyfriend or husband or wife, but
Hmm.
just true friends
Hmm.
that are positive and that's uplifting and that can kind of help you through what you're going through.
Okay. So that's great. I mean, the power of having positive people or thoughts around
Hmm.
you is tremendous. But I'm going to make the situation even more tricky for you to
Okay.
solve. Let's
That's
say this person is stuck in the sense, you know how, especially I'm
mhm.
talking specifically about teenagers,
Okay.
where he just feels trapped. I mean,
Hmm.
even though he's been bullied,
Hmm.
doesn't have strength
Hmm.
or doesn't know where to go, or you know somehow he starts to feel it is what it is, I'm going to
And
get bullied.
losing it. Yeah, and he's
Yeah,
losing it. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
how do we get teenagers to kind of separate themselves away from from their peers who may be into drugs or gun violence, or
Hmm.
you know uh, because sometimes they are just doing it not because they want to do it,
Yeah.
but they are trapped.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. When I'm in high school and I get a lot of teenagers like that, I get a
Yeah.
lot of teenagers like that. And what I tell parents is this, and this is what saved my life, football saved my life, is that
Yes.
you got to put them in an activity. You
Okay.
got to put them in activity. And I know it may be hard financially during
Hmm.
the coronavirus,
Hmm.
but putting them in an activity helps put them around positive people and it helps with their self-esteem. So,
Hmm.
and I don't mean it has to be football or sports or anything like that. If you know you're a teenager, if they have a feel for art or they have a
Yes.
feel for music or dance
Hmm.
or cooking,
Hmm.
where they can go at least once or twice a week to a class, and then that's something that they can help them deal with their self-esteem, and it helps them to feel good about themselves. And then they're around like people who have the same positive mentality.
Hmm.
During the coronavirus, that may be hard, and I know finances can be whatever, but I think that it would be important that as a parent, if you can find a mentor, somebody a little bit older. So,
Yes.
like if you have a teenager, to find somebody that may be in college, or if they're a freshman, find a senior. It doesn't matter, and they can be kind of like a mentor to that person,
Hmm.
and then kind of do activities on Zoom with that person, as
Yeah.
far as read a book together and
Yeah.
recommend a book, and they can sit on Zoom and read a book together. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be an hour or 2 hours. It can just be 20 minutes or half an hour, so that way that person can connect with somebody and kind of work from there.
Perfect. Because you do need that. You need that oxygen almost to
Yeah.
help you get through. Talking about books, I believe you wrote a book.
Yes, I wrote my autobiography, and thank you. I I'm a horrible self promoter. I'm horrible, so I don't self
No,
promote
please
myself.
don't. Tell us.
Right. So I wrote my autobiography, and what's really important is that my autobiography was my therapy, because I
Mm.
couldn't understand why I was making the same mistakes. I couldn't understand why I was in the same relationships, and the relationship would end. And then when I wrote my autobiography, and I remember I started from when I was 4 or 5 years old all the way up until that point, then seeing the different patterns, it hit me, and it helped me to understand that a lot of stuff that I learned from my parents, and I learned from my grandparents, because it's sort of like learned behavior. You know, this is what you know, and I didn't know that I was doing this sort of like on a subconscious level. And so writing that book helped turn my life around. And one of the things, if they don't learn anything from me or hear anything from me, this is what I want to tell them is that what I learned is that in order for me to gain control, I had to lose control. Meaning that I spent my whole life trying to control other people. Trying to control my mother, you know, begging her to do this, or begging my girlfriend to stay, or not to cheat on me, or begging my brothers and sisters to go to school. And what I was doing was that by me not being able to control them, I was losing control of myself because I was so much into them. So what I had to learn to realize is that I had to learn to let go and control what I can control. I can only control myself. I can't control anything else. And that was a process for me. So after I wrote my book and I understood it, so what I would do is I would take index cards and I would put it on I put the word let go on the index cards. I put it in my mirror. I put it on my front door when I walked out, and I put it on the wall when I walked in on my front door, because it's a process of letting go. It's like, let go, control what you can control. And so in doing that, that helped me to focus on my self-care. That helped me to focus on myself. And then once I started getting to know myself, then it kind of helped motivate me to do different things of self-caring about myself and not worrying about my siblings or my nephews or anybody like that. I worried about myself. And so that was part of it. That's the first thing I had to learn to do, was to let go.
Wow. What's the name of your biography?
Oh, it's My Journey to Kevin James Jackson.
Okay, so that's how you found.
That's how I found Kevin
You
James
found
Jackson.
Kevin within you
I found it within me.
by learning to letting go.
Yes, and what's so funny about that, I know I refer to the Wizard of Oz all the time, but I was it was the black version, The Wiz, with Diana Ross and Michael Jackson, and she said something very profound in that movie. She says that she was talking to the Wiz, and she says, the Lion, the Scarecrow, and Tin Man had inside of them what they was looking for all along.
Yeah.
And then she looked at him and said, I don't know what's inside of you, but I know you can't find it in these four walls. So what the guy had seen in me, he saw it in me, and I didn't see it in myself, but it was in me all along. And when I learned to let go and control what I can control, then that definitely helped me to find myself.
That, I think, is such a profound teaching moment for us right now, is going back to COVID and everything that has happened, is if we somehow start letting go and dwelling over that and really, really look at it, no matter how horrible the situation is for quite a few people out there with their jobs and, relationship and parents, and life is complicated. There's so much happening. But I think if we take your advice of letting go and start focusing on what we can do, because I know that there are resources out there in the community, right? So there is hope, but I guess we get so stuck or fixated upon our problems and how everybody is responsible for certain situations, that we are not finding enough energy to look for things for ourselves. So Kevin, that letting go, the
index cards.
index card is a great idea.
Yeah, because what I learned, especially being in the education field, is that we learn with all our senses. I used to think that I only learned with my eyes, but you learn with your hearing, your eyes, your smell, your taste, and how you feel. And so when you learn, and then like when you put it, when you see it and you say it, then you hear it, then eventually you'll begin to feel it.
Yes.
Let go, let go. So that's the whole part of it. And like with my children, I got twins, and what I do, and like I said, I was raised, and you know, if you read the book, nobody never told me they loved me, ever in my life. Coming up from a kid, nobody ever said I love. And I didn't think that was important, but it is important. So when I see my kids, is that I always hug them, and I let them see it in my face. I let them see it in my feel. I let them hear it in my voice, because you're learning with all your senses, so they know that I love them. And I think that's important, is that you got to love yourself. And I don't, it can be let go, or it could be love yourself, or whatever message you want to give yourself. I think it's important that something small like that would definitely help you.
Absolutely. What a great story that you have, you know, to from where you started, and some real stuff. You know, you are you know, growing up in such a strict family and religious family. You are a man of color. That adds another layer of issues on top of everything. And you know, and from there to be in the position of a social worker helping kids in schools, that must be very rewarding for you.
It is. It's extremely rewarding, especially when they reach out to me on Facebook and they thank me for, you know, all the help. And the one thing that I say is that for loving me, And I would tell them all the time that I do love you, and that I'm trying, you know, and everything that I'm giving you is to help you and to benefit you, not to tear you down or destroy you. So that is just a great thing. It really is. It's a great feeling. And a lot of them were in my situation. So I'm trying to get them information that I didn't have. So hopefully they won't go through so many hurdles and obstacles that I did when I was younger, and hopefully make life a little bit easier for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So do you have any social media or any contact or anything that you want to share with with the audience, if anybody wants to reach out to you?
I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
My Facebook name is Kevin James Jackson. So if you send me a friend request, I would definitely accept your friend request.
Sure.
If you want to reach out to me through messaging, I don't want to put my telephone number out there, but if they want to call or email me, I can send you my information.
Please do.
And if they want to reach out and talk to me, I'll be more than happy to do that as well. Because I think that we all have to do it together. Absolutely. And I think we truly need to depend on each other. I love your platform. Thank you. I think, honestly, this is a great platform because people need this. And people need to understand they're not in it alone. There are so many different people that's going through the same thing. And I may have some resources for you that you may not have, or you may have some for me. So this is so important. So thank you for starting this, and thank you for having this.
That's true. No, really, thank you. I'm glad our paths crossed somehow, because I feel that there's so many of us in the community with some skill or something that we can help each other, and people feel, oh my God, you have to be a celebrity to make impact. And I feel, no, each one of us, you know, can help in some way. And sometimes it may be just smiling or just waving at your neighbor, you know, something that tiny, that minute can have a profound effect. And just like that, your employer, you know, that one sentence changed your life. So who knows, your smile, your wave, your just hello may pull somebody out of the black hole, and really will help them, will give them hope in humanity, and and to move forward. So thank you for coming on the show today.
Anytime you want me, I'm more than happy to be on your show
That's
or
great.
anything, whatever you need. I'm
Sure.
definitely available.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I look forward to talking to you again, hopefully in person, maybe in Chicago soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, so everybody, we had a phenomenal episode with Kevin Jackson today. And those of you, any of you, maybe you, your family, or anybody in your close circle needs any help, some sort of a mentorship, advice, please reach out. Okay, unless sometime we don't, if it's as simple as don't ask, don't get, right?
Mhm.
So please get out, ask for help. We are here to help. If we can't help, or if we don't have resources, we'll find something for you. So please, 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 please reach out for help. You are not alone. And thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Again, I do Facebook live cooking demos every Thursday and once in a while on Sunday. So stay tuned with the announcement on our Facebook page, Nutritionist Deepa, and you can watch this podcast episode on YouTube. So make sure you share and review and do your thing, okay? Until then, stay well, stay healthy, stay happy.